video to log plans because I need this video to look back on to remind myself I need to be doing this. So, brief history. Used to do swimming for a very long time. Won a scholarship. One off doing my lifeguarding. Ironically, the pool shut once I won my scholarship. But yeah, I did it. Really, really good swimmer, actually. Saved my mum one time when we were on holiday in Cornwall Sea. We were getting dragged out. It was really, really bad riptide. Really bad. And we got dragged out. Couldn't find my brother. Mum's not a strong swimmer. I gave her my buggy board. I swam us back. A bloke came out in a kayak and said, I can't help you. You're going to have to figure out how to get back yourself. You need to start moving back. I'm like, yeah, telling me. But anyway, we got back safe. Brother had already made it back. I don't know how. He must have been flying. I don't know. But I was a good swimmer, right? For reference, 2 days later in that same sea, a woman and a son drowned. They got took out and they drowned. So we were lucky. My skills came in handy, basically. Got to about 13, 14 and stopped swimming properly. I don't know what it was. I think it was because I was going into secondary, want to try new things. Been doing swimming all my life. Started doing dancing and gymnastics. Very good at dancing and gymnastics. Naturally flexible. Thank you, fibromyalgia, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, hypermobility. Did really well until, I don't know, I bent backwards too far and I did my back in. And that were 2 years into dancing and gymnastics. And at that point, my back shot. And I'm 16 and my back shot. So that stopped. But I ended up tried hockey. Very good for hockey because I'm short. Not very good with balance though because of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Same with netball. Good at shooting. But I am short. And my balance is shocking. So, did water polo. Ironically enough, can't catch a thing out of water, but seem to be able to catch things in water. So very good at keeping in water polo. That's ever so strange. Did competitions for school swimming. So still dabbled in my swimming, still did stuff. Still went and did lane swimming and what have you, but not like every week. Then I moved on to spinning. And I loved spinning. It were always high intensity, and I've got a big drive, and I always push myself to the point where I'm fainting and having nosebleeds. Thank you very much, fibromyalgia and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Didn't realise what that was at the time. Thought I was just pushing myself too hard. I was to the point where I was half killing myself, but I didn't realise that. But I did. I loved it. We did it in fancy dress. We even used to drink. We had parties while we were doing it. Honestly, it was so much fun. I'm so sad that closed down. I love those people. They were the bestest people I've ever met in my life. The most supportive, bestest group I've ever been a part of. Did aerobics, did aqua aerobics, did lots of stuff. And then got heavily depressed for a few different reasons. Stuff happened to me, which I'm not going to go into. One of the main ones, Mama got poorly. Mama and her sister got poorly, and it was cancer. And that kind of rocks you. You know, they were matriarchs at family. That's still not nice to talk about. I don't think it ever will be. This was like 10 years ago. 10 years ago this year. But it knocked me something chronic. And something before that when I was about 14. Again, started me down the road of drink and drugs and partying. So I'd already started the road of moving away from things that are good for me and that I enjoy down into another form of enjoyment that's absolutely 100% destructive. And that started when I was 14, as I say. Go down, drink, drugs, smoking, parties, not really looking after myself. and I'm putting that politely. And then when my ma passed, about 10, 11 years later, so when I was about 25, really started losing myself. And something changed permanently for the worse. And I suddenly started getting pain everywhere that wouldn't stop. And I was tired all the time. And then about 2 years later from that is when I couldn't keep myself going anymore. I couldn't work my jobs. I was on 14 Cocodamol in an 8-hour shift just to get me through the shift because I needed a job. Working in ankle splints and wrist splints and my back support, barely functioning because I'm off my head. Getting sick because of medications. They started putting me on loads of stuff, and then they put me on stronger stuff, so it went from 112 Codamol a month to 224, and they were just upping and pushing more drugs in us. And then they moved us on to Tramadol, and they put me on full amount straight away, maximum of 8 a day. And at that point you're fully hooked, and the pain, whilst you have pain, so at this point I've lost my jobs, I've got my diagnosis, it's fibro. First diagnosis, fibro. But I'm on all these medications, and now they push in stuff like sertraline, amitriptyline, nortriptyline, testing them on me with mixes of everything else. Ended up getting serotonin toxicity, nearly died from the crap that they were putting in me. They're banned for about 3 years. Struggling. Put on a lot of weight because I couldn't move. You get more pain from withdrawals and cravings. At that point, it's fibro 200 times because your body wants your drugs, you know. So I cut down drinking drastically for obvious reasons. So I was a proper binge drinker, and it was every day. And I did work in a pub for a good 5 years, which don't help. And then you work in warehouses with blokes, and you're hanging around with blokes, and you all end up in pub all the time. And I loved my time with them, but it was bad for you. It was killing me. So I could drastically cut down drinking, so it wasn't every day, it weren't even every week, it wasn't even every month. Smoking was still a thing, but I needed to get off all the tablets. So I said to the doctors, I'm not doing this cocktail anymore. I went straight down to Tramadol, and then I was researching how to get off Tramadol because I didn't want to be on it, because I knew it was making me worse, and I knew I was addicted to it, and it's my body screaming in agony because it wants more drugs, and it's just not working anymore. It needs more. Really big problems when you get to that point. So, and I've been on tablets for 12 years at that point, from Cocodamol all the way up to Tramadol. So long-term pain relief, medication problem. Spent a year, it was just before we went into lockdown, actually. I did research because I'm always good at making sure, despite the fact that I fuck my own life up, and I know I do. I know how to fuck myself up. I know what makes me right. Yeah, I'm a clever person. I just didn't want to apply that at one point for a long time. I didn't really care about myself, so I made a point of caring about myself. At this point, I'm in my mama's house. I've got no job. I need to look after this house. I need to renovate it. I wanted to do it up and get it all sorted for while my mum were in it, but she was dying and she didn't want me to touch it, and that's fair enough. But I made a promise that I'd get it done, and I can't afford to be poorly if I need to get it done. I need a place to live. and I need to keep my promise. And my mum always said, you can do anything you put your mind to. You just need to put your mind to it. And I never believed it for a long time. Because I'm an idiot. I'm not an idiot. I was a lot of stuff that happened. You kind of don't see it after a while. But in the moment, I needed to see it because that's the only thing that was going to make me do stuff and get going. So I'm really speedrunning this chat, believe it or not. There's like a million side quests that went off. We're like crazy ass motherfuckers and all sorts of fucking. Anyway, main quest. Researched tramadol and weaning off, and the safest amount of time that was the most efficient to drop a tablet. By which I mean, what you do is you drop a tablet. What's the time? What's the time frame of withdrawal symptoms once you've dropped a tablet? So first 3 days, for example, body's screaming. 5 to 7 days, it starts wearing off a bit, and then you get to like a week, 2 weeks, something like that, and your body's kind of stabilizing, right? And then you can drop it again. Yeah, because if you drop them all at once and you go cold turkey, you can really, again, you can mess your body up. So I'm trying to do it in the most efficient way without rushing it or without taking too long because I need to get off. So I spent about 3 months researching. Then I spent a year practice weaning, trial weaning. And what I did, I dropped a tablet every month and a half to see how it would feel. And I managed to get down to about 2 tablets from 8. And I distinctly remember, I did 1 tablet every 2 months just to see what it was like. And I got down to 2 tablets, and I'm like, I know I'm elongating the process, and this is just to test what it's like with withdrawals if I take a long time. I already know how it's going to be if I go cold turkey, because it makes you fucking insane, and you can make yourself really poorly, and you can fuck your organs up and all sorts. You can't just go cold turkey. Anyway, when I'd done about a year's worth of weaning, trial weaning, to see what the whole thing were going to feel like, I got down to 2 tablets, and I was like, I'm just going to go for it. And what I did was I gave myself a break, and I went back up to 8 because my body was screaming at that point. I've been trying for a year and putting through that elongated process and pain for like a year, and it were really difficult. This is the year before we went into lockdown, so the world is already going to shit. I'm bedbound, I'm practicing this, and then all of a sudden lockdown comes and everyone's stuck in their house. And I thought to myself, whilst everybody else is not used to being isolated, and this is going to really hurt folk and they're going to really struggle with this, I'm going to take advantage of it because I'm already housebound. I've already been like this for a while. I am used to being in this situation. This is no different for me. I can utilise this time. That's what I'm going to do. This is perfect time. Nobody's there forcing me to come out or putting pressure on or doing anything. We are told to stay at home. I'm going to use this to my advantage. So what I did was I dropped a tablet every 2 weeks. Just until the major withdrawal feeling started to dissipate, and then I went straight back in and dropped another tablet. And I was sleeping on the sofa at this point, despite the fact I was in my own home. I'm not going to go into that, but it was fucking horrible, and there was no proper eating, and there was no money, and I was fucking freezing and in a lot of pain coming off these tablets. And when I say it is not for the faint-hearted, I would never knock anybody who's pushing to get off of anything hard, ever. I will never knock a soul, because the way it makes your body feel, the symptoms that you get, the emotional volatility, the psychological vulnerability that you go through, psychosis, paranoia. It's really lack of sleep does nothing for nobody. In fact, it makes the whole thing worse. You know, and you can't fall back onto your pain relief to give yourself a break. You've literally got to knuckle down and just deal with it. So you've got 3 months of ripping the crap out of your body, literally. And I did it. And I didn't tell doctors I was going to do it. I told them afterwards. I said, I've come off. I've done it. I've come off. And I was still dealing with after effects of tramadol for about 6 to 12 months after that. But I really needed to jump into a job because I needed to fund this house and my body. Like, there's only... I know everyone keeps talking about benefits and stuff in Britain, right? You can't survive long term. You just can't. It's impossible. If you want to pay for your stuff and have energy and have food and have clothes and travel, you can't live on benefits. You can't. You know, and the intention was never to stay on benefits. I've always worked my whole life. I've always been running around like a headless chicken. That's another thought that came into my head. I've got a body that won't do that anymore because I keep snapping my ligaments in the ankles and I'm in my back brace. I keep getting partial dislocations, so I can't do the jobs where I used to run around anymore. So what do? So whilst dealing with withdrawals, but being tramadol free and no drink anymore, still smoking though, I started coming off of fags. So I came off of normal packet fags, pre-made fags, and went on to tobacco because there's less chemicals in it. Quite a lot of the time they talk about nicotine being the addictive part. The chemicals are just as bad. There's less chemicals in tobacco, rolling tobacco, and you make them a lot smaller, or at least I did. So I went from big massive packet bags to lots of little tiny roll-ups, and then I started weaning down on them. So from 7 a day to 5 a day, from 5 a day to 3 a day, from 3 a day to 2 a day, 2 a day to 1 a day, 1 a day to half a day. I even got to the point where I was cutting my papers down. I learnt that tip off of a friend, cut my papers so that they're tiny, tiny little things rather than the big ones. And I got to the point where I was like, I think I was like 1 a day, something like that, 1 a day or half a day. And I went on to nicotine pouches that you put in your gum. They were Nordic Spirit, new product that come out. I can deal with those. Tested all the different strengths. The strongest ones, I don't know who the fuck is having those. You end up with holes in your gums, holes in the back of your head. They burn through you like no tomorrow, and they make you so sick. Oh my god. But I was on second strength. And then after a while, I did some research into nicotine pouches, the weakest strength versus a roll-up, and the nicotine content in each of those. And I found out one weak level 1 nicotine pouch has 4 times the amount of nicotine than one roll-up had. So actually I'd gone up. So I thought it was helping, and it wasn't. Technically it did, and I'll explain why. That my habit was this: when I was stressed, I wanted to do this, and I couldn't breathe, and I was stressing, And people, when they tend to not breathe, is when they go grab a fag, because it regulates breathing, you know. Yes, they're inhaling absolute crap, but it's the breathing regulation. So what I did was got rid of this habit to force me to properly breathe, and I went on to the nicotine pouches. So got rid of this habit of wanting to, you know, and learn how to properly breathe again without needing to grab something to do that. But ironically, upped my nicotine intake. So again, I had to wean off those, and again, it went down to like 1 pouch a day, then one every couple of days, and then come off them. So that took a couple of years just to do that whole thing and get off the fags. And then at that point, I couldn't even touch a fag ever again. So bad. But I did it. Now, all of that was going on whilst I'm dealing with tramadol withdrawals, because I've come clean off that. And I've got really bad shakes and after effects due to fibro and some other stuff. And I had to jump into work quick. And I managed to land a job where I was working at home on the phones. Which was really fucking handy for me because my body's not working. But I needed to go in office for the first 3 months for my training every day. So I did my training in office every day with withdrawals, dealing with panic attacks, coming off the fags, coming off of drink, and also trying to get back into being around folk, because I've not been around folk for like 3-4 years at this point. I've not touched a phone in God knows how long. Like, I've not been on internet properly. Like, social anxiety went through the roof. But I thought it was a case of, I took it as a case of, here's another fucking challenge I need to get myself over. If I'm scared of taking calls and I'm scared of talking to folk and I'm scared of people, well, I need to just go and do it then. Because at the end of the day, this is going to work for me. You know, I can't use my body anymore. I can't run around warehouses like a headless chicken like I used to, messing around with massive machines. I need a job where I can sit for the time being because my body's not right. So I did all that. I have been fully drink free now for a year. Just under a year. There's been odd occasion where I've had odd tipple, like a friend's birthday or last Christmas works do. Got really sick from it, obviously, but they're the only times. No fags. The only medications I'm juggling are paracetamol and used to be ibuprofen, and I was taking them every day, paracetamol and ibuprofen religiously. And then I got really bad pain in my stomach, and they did some tests and found out that I shouldn't have ibuprofen at all. It stops your intestines producing mucus in its lining, and obviously you need that to protect the lining of your intestines. And instead, my stomach acid was burning my intestines away because I couldn't produce the mucus lining anymore. So I had to get rid of ibuprofen, so I'm not allowed ibuprofen family anymore. No NSAIDs and no, I forget what the other ones are. SSRIs. No SSRIs, no NSAIDs. So strictly paracetamol and codeine at this point. So I stayed on paracetamol for a long time. Got quite a bit done on the house, got my body back, did a lot of walking, but couldn't shift the weight because I can't move as much. So all the weight that I put on from being stuck in bed, it's really hard to move that. because I can't do the exercise I used to do, because I'm not doing the heavy lifting and the running around in my job anymore. I'm sat at a desk and I'm still in my house. So I use my garden jobs to help me build strength. I use my house jobs to help me build strength, building fences, painting, wallpapering, just general shit to try and get myself moving. My house jobs, religiously cleaning first thing in the morning, pots and everything like that, to try and get myself moving, just to get some muscle back. But the weight was a really big problem then, because I can feel it. You know, I've not got the pain relief to fall back on anymore. I can't numb it with drink or fags and get me dopamine hit. I can feel it. So this year was all about getting